Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to episode 8. This is part 2 of my interview with the one and only Popstar Johnny Romano from Bayside, California, weighing in at the combined weight of both Olsen twins. I love getting to do that entrance.
Yeah, I'm always like when somebody asked me how much I weigh. Somebody said that one time. I think it was Ben Parker said it one time, and I was like, I like it. But I always tell whoever's doing it, I'm like, look, if you can come up with something more clever and it's '90s related, go for it. I'll like it no matter what it is. So that's where that whole shtick came from. But I like billing myself. I build myself from Malibu Sands to Bayside to Melmac, which is the planet Alf is from. Um, I've done what's another one? Uh, God, I done forgot where Power Rangers are from. Somebody on here is gonna hate me and say like you're not a '90s fan. It's just slipping my mind right now. Too many concussions. Just anything of that nature, I always try. So, but
Right.
I apologize for last go around, guys. During the end of it, my son was having some breathing issues, and we ended up having to rush him to the ER. Luckily, he was completely fine. We believe he legitimately, sad to say, even at like 11 or 12, he was having an anxiety attack and just didn't really realize how to deal with it. But in his head, he thought he was like having a heart attack. He couldn't breathe, but it's completely fine now. So, but we had to cut it short that day. So I apologize for that.
Well, it's amazing when you Google where were the Power Rangers from, it doesn't give you the direct answer. But if I'm not mistaken, it was something Grove.
Now, watch this. Pax, where are the Power Rangers from? What Grove? What? Where are the Power Rangers from? Their town. Yeah, Angel Grove. Angel Grove.
Let's see. See,
See, he knew it.
you're
He knew
raising
it
them
off the
right.
jump. That's right. And I couldn't remember it for the life of me. So that tells you where I'm at.
I, I knew it had a Grove in it, but I just couldn't remember what was before that.
Yeah, he knew it like that. But I used to be able to. But I always do it to pop people that will get it. They're like Chris Jericho used to do those one-liners that only a few people would get. But he's like, for those few people, they thought it was genius. So, I mean, will Gen Z get it? No. I mean, my kid, I guess, is considered. Now, what is my kid? My kid is considered Gen Alpha, but this generation that's like under 30 are considered Gen Z. No, they probably wouldn't get it, but they're not really my demographic I'm shooting for. So,
Well, I mean, also though, you gotta look at the evolution of the Power Rangers. Like they started going into what Dino Force or something like that, and then like this definitely came a long way from whenever we were watching it growing up.
yeah, your boy Tommy stayed on it forever and a day. He seemed like he was on it through I don't know how many versions of it. I stopped after like the original. I didn't even go Zeo. And again, I know somebody like a Ben Parker, somebody's gonna be mad at me like, why didn't you go further? I was like, because if it wasn't the original, I went all the way up to when they
If it wasn't
changed.
the Mighty Morphin, right?
Yeah, when it wasn't Mighty Morphin. Now I went along when they changed the Black Ranger, when they changed the Yellow Ranger. Uh, I think they changed the Red Ranger. I went along with that second crew, but then after that, when it went to like Alien Rangers was like the first set, and then it was like after that, I was done. I was done. I haven't.
It's like it
I'm,
don't have that same effect and vibe no more.
right, right.
So we left off last episode by asking you what advice would you give to someone aspiring to be a professional wrestler?
I think our first little. I mean, the little joke that you said you hear a lot of them say is like, "Don't." But if I had to give any advice, it'd be set realistic goals. Like, I mean, go to school. You ain't got to go to school because I don't like that mentality. That used to be the thing to tell everybody. But we're in a day and age where you don't have to go to college, but have something other to fall back on. I guess some other kind of thing, and You know, there's a lot of indie wrestlers, man, that still have. I mean, there's a lot of guys that make decent money, but they still have 9 to 5. I mean, our boy Effie, up till probably recently, I'd say pandemic period, this wasn't a shoot job. Now it's a shoot job for him, but he was still, and he's been top guy for years, but he was still Monday morning clocking in
Right.
because he knew that the rent had to be paid. He knew these basic needs. So I always have that in mind. Here's a big one. I'll give you this one. Never neglect the other things in your life for this business, your family. You know, don't miss a baseball game for your kid to go do a fair show because you're there. You know, like, oh, well, I'm their champion. I can't admit, like, bro, it's just that's your kids. You know, like have your priorities in order. I guess that's the best advice. And as far as actual in ring work, find your own style. Understand if you ask 10 credible workers how to do one thing, you're going to get 10 different answers. You know, so you have to decipher how much of this works for you. You know,
Right.
like the running the ropes. Running the ropes is a perfect example. You know, I see so many guys do that thing where they use their other hand to grab the middle rope. Never done that in my life. Don't see no point on it. Uh, where you're supposed to do 3 steps. Well, if it's a 20 by 20 ring, kind of hard to do 3 steps, ain't it? It's are you safe with how you're turning? Are you consistent in how you're doing it? You know, if I see something that I straight up think is going to be dangerous, I tell you. But running ropes is a perfect example of there's different ways of doing things. So,
Yeah, because I mean,
be
I've even
critical.
seen some
Go
where they grab both with both hands that middle rope, and I'm like, that's
ahead.
still not going to stop it from propelling you over.
Grab that top rope, twist and turn. I mean, there's even a Glacier showed me Ray Lloyd. He shows everybody this old. He even, but that's what's great about him. He tells everybody. Did I freeze up here? Looks like I froze up.
No, you're still going.
Um, he even tells everybody, "I'm gonna show you another old school way that I do for my hip, and it's where you lean your hip into the rope. You don't have to do that." You know what I mean? Like you got to find your own way, your own style of
What
everything. But
what
the
feels
biggest,
comfortable to you, also, right?
exactly, I guess the biggest piece of advice over all of that is keep your priorities in straight, get quality training. You know, you'll know if you go somewhere, you get what you pay. It's like, what's the phrase about tattoos? Good tattoos ain't cheap, and cheap tattoos ain't good. It's the same way with pro wrestling training. You know, you
Yeah.
get what you pay for, and what do you want to? Daniel Bryan said it at a not my yeah, I wasn't at this seminar, but I seen where I watched on YouTube. He did a seminar where he told everybody, "I want to do this for a living. If you don't want to do this for a living, that's okay." That was his mentality, and I wish it would have became a full fledged living, but it's just a part time gig that makes some little extra money here and there that I love to do. So don't let anybody discredit you. Um, you know, so I guess that's it. Priorities: get quality training, evaluate why you really want to do this, and another big one is respect the past. Respect. There's so many guys where their knowledge of wrestling begins and ends with John Cena, and I know I guess that's been 20 years, so that's a long period of time. But for me, John Cena is still a new school guy in my head. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like I
When I
don't.
think when I think old school, I think like golden era and stuff like that. Like
Mhm.
where the gimmicks were actually larger than life. You know what I'm saying? Like that's what really turned me on to wrestling was the fact that they were, as I heard them say, and the guys that were starting to make the first ever wrestling toys and stuff. But like these were real life superheroes. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like I mean, at the end of the day, you still had your occupational gimmicks like the janitor and stuff like that. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like,
Duke
but
the dumpster.
at the yeah, Duke the Dumpster, Mike Rosie. Um, But that's what really got me into it. Like just seeing those larger than life personalities, and like, man, that that's like the closest thing to Superman you're gonna get in actuality. You know.
Right, right. I think the biggest, and I was going to say another thing that I would add to that is, as far as like advice is, don't let like ask yourself why you want to do this. That's what we get asked a lot. Like with what I do for a shoot job, in social work, is like anytime we do those meetings where you all gather around and you introduce yourself, or, whatever, and they say, why do you want to do this? That's the same thing you should ask yourself about wrestling is, why do you want to do this? Glacier used to say, give me another answer before y'all begin. Don't say because it's my passion. Come up with something. What other reason? Like what like why do you really want to do this? Why do I want to drive 4 hours tomorrow with my family? You know to go be part of a wrestling show, a predominant one, a legitimate one, GCW. Why am I doing that? Because in my head, I'm an artist and I like being creative. So also another last little bit, and then we can move on to whatever you want to next, because I know I ramble, but is before you do anything, ask yourself, why do I want to travel the United States or, the world or whatever in tights and roll around with a dude? Like what is in
Right.
my head that I'm going to do this? And if you can come up with a logical answer, then move forward. And then on top of the other things, but long answer to it's a question that I think that has a lot of depth to it. Like what advice? Like, man, that could be a whole podcast right there. That could be one whole episode about like advice. Like so many things you could tackle into it. So let me stop on that one before that eats up a half an hour on just that question.
Well, I mean, like if you were to ask me that question, why do you want to do this? Because I've been getting some training in and all that, but the reason why I want to do it is because at 4 years old, that was my escape from reality. And just turning on Monday nights and watching, the Shawns, the Razors, the 1, 2, 3 Kids, and all that. I mean, as far as back as I can remember, my earliest memories of my entire childhood was I was a pro wrestling fan.
Right.
It,
Me too, man.
I love everything about the business. Well, I'll say majority about the business because there's some things about it that I just don't agree with, like certain aspects of it, but we won't get into all that. But like, because the list can go on that one. Like you said, there could be a whole podcast of what I dislike about certain things in the wrestling business. But
Oh, if you catch that question, you're gonna open up Pandora's box if you ask me what I don't like about the business. And then I can hear Logan in my head as my tag. Logan, as my tag team partner, is always the way I view me and him is with us being a tag team. We're the buddy cop movie that I'm always getting us in trouble, and he has to bail us out. But my heart is in the right place. I'm always
right,
like, he knows that, and he's always got to like bail me out of this. Like I'm Sean Hunter and he's Corey Matthews. On Boy Meets World, I'm always like getting us into this crazy scheme, and he's always having to bail me out. But he knows my heart's in the right place about it. But so when I say certain things, he's always like, Romano, stop, stop. But yeah, if you ask me what I don't like about it, that's a whole, bro. You could have me on again and be like, pet peeves in wrestling, episode 10 or whatever. That could be just the
well,
whole.
that might be a good idea for a podcast for you.
Right, yeah, wrestling pet peeves. Yeah, well, I'm trying to do my TikTok a little bit between just getting into it. I ain't really got like savvy with it, but I'm balancing it between my mental health coping skills I like to share and just random ramblings of like something that occurs to my head. It's if nobody watches it, it's at least therapeutic. It's my own version of a journal doing it. So, I'm trying to do that as well. But pet peeves in wrestling, hey, I got a show tomorrow. Maybe on the way I'll do one about wrestling pet peeves, Romano rambling style. I don't know. I don't want to get
Well,
too much trouble with anybody.
just give me one right now. Just give me one right
One right now, pet peeve. Okay.
now.
Mm,
Like the
I'm trying to
biggest
keep it
thing
to
that
where.
irritates you the most.
Okay. Oh man. Oh man. Ooh. Um, I guess I would say like egos on the indie circuit because it's like, bro, Monday morning, your odds are you are saying something like, you know, do you want fries with that? Or, you know,
Or
maybe you
welcome
got
to
a really good.
IGA.
Yeah, I mean, and it's all the same. Like, even if you work in a gym, or me, I'm a mental health caseworker, so that's not a job I can kind of like say and not have a negative thing to it. But a garbage man might make more money than I do. I don't know because the how the economy is. I don't know how that works. But I don't like the egos when they come in and they just kind of you can feel it in the locker room. You can as soon as I've always described myself. That's why I don't have the atypical body that I should, I guess. But I've always been one that I know what I'm doing. I can bump my ass off for you. I want to get the best out of you. But you get these guys that don't even, like if they come in the locker room and they just you can smell it that they just think that like you got two types really. One wants to call absolutely everything from A to Z, and if you miss D, C, E, F, G, they are pissed because it didn't just go that the flow to everything they want to do. Or you got the polar opposite. So you got the new generation and you got the really old generation that don't want to call anything. They don't want to talk to you. They're like, "We'll call it in the ring, kid." But then you get in the ring and it's 400 clotheslines. It's like, well, what the hell was this, man? Why are we not working with each other? Why are you not, like I'm dizzy from the amount of clotheslines I've took from you because you don't want to. You've run out of things. You can't think of anything else. So you like whip clothesline, whip. I'm not saying this is everybody. I'm just saying that I know the type when I see them, and those are the worst. Is like you're not trying to work together with each other. If you go with that one side that's A to Z, it becomes so robotic, and that's what I have a problem with a lot of wrestling nowadays. I don't know if wrestling fans are watching wrestling for I love pro wrestling or if they're like, the choreographicness, that's not a word, of the whole thing. They like, I almost think some certain wrestling fans watch it in a mockery kind of way. And I don't like that. When I believed in The Undertaker, I thought The Undertaker was unstoppable. I believed in this. I actually thought about this. So, but then you go the other way, the people that are so old school that just don't want to call anything. Well, we are in a different area where you can't work that style and keep a generation of TikTokers, that they need it right here now. They need it. They need it. I don't think, certain matches, you can't wrestle 70s style in 2022. Not gonna work.
Certain aspects of it, like maybe to transition to something else, that would
Of
be okay,
course,
but
of
not like
course,
right.
of course. No. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say in a nutshell, and I probably stumbled over all of my words. I'm trying to get to the point was no, the two sides of the coin don't like to work with each other. They don't want to. My job from day one, what I've learned, and my phone just died on me, man. There we go. You're dying, and you're gone. Take three.
Yeah, we'll let me write this timestamp down.
You have to just splice this together nicely.
All right, so now that we have you back, Mr. Romano, um, let's let me ask you my next question, and that would be, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years as far as this wrestling thing goes?
Well, I mean, I got a few things on my bucket list still. Me and Logan talk about them pretty regularly. Some are kind of like, a little far fetched, but you always have them in the back of your mind. I don't necessarily look at like contracts or anything like that because in 5 years I'll be over 40, man. Which is, it's just I can't even wrap my head around that. But I would like to say I'd like to knock off a few more states off my list. Of course, one thing is whatever anybody wants to say about me or PWI 500 has always been one of my bucket lists since I was, you know, every year buying the magazine as a kid. Uh, and, the few times I was supposed to have to work TV with like one of the bigger companies, whether it been Impact, WWE, or, even the times with AEW, everything's always fell through. Um, but I've had the emails, I've had things, and it just didn't happen. So if I just had that one little thing to do, that'd be nice. But outside of those, like, childhood type of goals from a maturity level, I would just like to help um, wrestling grow. I'd like to still give what I know back to the community because I think a lot of the knowledge of things that I've talked about, even in this podcast, are a dying format. So, and that's what me and Logan talk about, with him, with Exclusive Pro and stuff like that, is really having a vision of holding on to something that is on life support, basically. So to just, give back, also just to like maybe share all this with I've shared it with my oldest Paxton a lot, but my middle child Ryder, and then my youngest child Lyric, to just share with them this thing we call wrestling, to be able to do some road trips with them. I always had a bucket list to do all 50 states. That's incredibly hard to do.
Yes, it is.
Because there's a lot of states. I don't know if you really know this. They really have one or two feds. Hawaii really only has one or two feds. There's some states that don't have anything because of the restrictions. So when they do a show, it's a big deal. So that's on my bucket list too. So that's a few things I would like to do before it's all said and done. But basically, just help the new generation as well, man.
Um, Now I know we've ran over all the questions that I had in the you know list that I sent you prior to this, but like so your wife also wrestled, so like it's like a family affair with wrestling, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say so. She hasn't really been able to do it as much, with having three kids and the balance of everything. Um, she doesn't know if she'll ever like be able to do it again. I'm sure she's got one or two more matches left in her. Uh, my thing is, when she wanted to try this, I was like, I'm gonna be harder on you than anybody.
All
Um,
right,
I'm
don't
gonna make
ask
you cry.
me.
Yeah, yeah. Because I don't want anybody to think that she's doing it just because she's my wife. And she's not the type of fan who grew up on it. She grew to love it. Like, her favorite wrestler is not like, a Seth Rollins. Her favorite wrestler is William Regal. If that gives you any indication of what she likes, what she really is drawn to in this. So she respects it highly, and she only wants to be able to prove herself with this. And her realistic goals are like, I'm not trying to get a contract. I enjoy this. I love this. I'd like to get better at it. There's a lot of things that were supposed to transpire. God rest the soul before Jerry passed away, and before we had our third child. But that is what it is, and no regrets on anything like that. But she loves it. I don't think my son loves it in the degree that I loved it, or even maybe how you loved it when we were kids. He loves
Right.
the bonding experience that we have for it. He's a toy collector, so he's loving collecting. His new thing right now is he's trying to collect all the DX Army Legends figures, and then he said I have to get him a tank to go with it. So the fact that he
So he can do
understands
the
what the reference,
WCW invasion.
right? He gets the reference, so it's cool that he gets all that. I'm very careful on what I let him watch on the Attitude Era, though. I gotta be careful because there's a lot of stuff we shouldn't have been watching. We
It
shouldn't
was
have been
definitely
able to.
risque.
Well, I mean, you think about it. As a kid, we were able to buy an action figure of a pimp and a porno star. I
Yep.
mean, what? How in the world did that go by under the radar and nobody thought yet Al Snow had a plastic head and that was a big deal. And his figure got taken off the shelves. But yeah, to answer your question, it is a big bonding thing. My wife probably doesn't look forward to these long drives. Her question is always, hey, are you going with me this weekend? And she's like, well, how far is it? She'll go every time, and it's more so that our littlest one he's kind of a lot to handle on these road trips. But like tomorrow is like right at what 3.5 hours, I think.
Yeah, and that's
Um,
a long time to have a kid cooped up in the car and not being able to move. When
yes,
you're that
sir.
age, you just want to go, 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 go.
Yes, sir. And it's these hot summer months, so it's a lot. I kind of flip it a little bit. Sometimes it's just me. Sometimes it's me and my oldest. I want to take my middle child, but I don't think he's at that maturity level yet to just be just me and him. Um, but yeah, I pass it all the way around, and I don't force it on anybody either. Like if they decide, there's many times where if I want my oldest to go with me, and I just vibe that he doesn't really want to go. This is the summer months. He's out for school. I'm like, if you don't want to go, son, that's fine, And he's like, well, I don't want to hurt your feelings. I was like, no, 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 you're good. If you don't feel like this is you want to do this right now. But there's other times he likes to go, mostly because me and him will hit every like vintage toy store on the way. So he likes doing that more than the actual show. So he enjoys the bonding more than anything. But yeah, it's a family affair, man.
So, like, you use the hashtag a lot, wrestling dad, and being that I've had experiences with you at shows and stuff, and I see all the time you're always posting pictures, and you're a proud father, and just from what I can gather, just from what I've seen, you embody that term.
Yeah, I really do, man. I've seen some wrestlers start to use it. I like to say that I coined it. Um, and I don't mind if other people use it. I'm not like butthurt about it or nothing, but I really, especially pre-pandemic, um, right when when wrestling was kind of just taken away from us, I refocused on things, and it's wrestling dad, and wrestling may come first in the name, but the dad is the most important part, and I don't do I'm on I do shows I went on shows with me and Logan, um, but 90% of the time I like having one of my kids. Like last weekend, I went to CWF and I was a surprise, so it was all kind of just under the wraps on everything. So I could have my kid there because
Right.
people have got to where they identify PAX as you know they know my kid. That's how much
Hey, that's
they know
Romano's kid, right?
exactly. Exactly. And they even say his name. He said sometimes it creeps him out when like fans come up to him to say, "Hey, Pax," and he's like, "I don't know who you are." But and that's a little scary. You got to be careful with that kind of stuff, But Um, he loves being a part of it. He loves, the whole world of it. But if I'm able to share what I love and not separate my family from it, I think about, well, what if I would have had the opportunity? And I mean, I like to think I was talented enough to have been at a higher level. I gotta believe that, because if I'm not believing it, I don't feel like I should be in a ring. Period. If I
Right.
believe that, truly believe that, but things just didn't work out. But then I say to myself, well, what if I would have been a contracted wrestler? I'd been on the road 300 days a year, and I don't know if I mentally could have handled that. You know what I mean? I don't know if I could have, been away and come home and see my kid and be like, he's grown 2 inches, to not see these milestones and stuff like that. It's my priorities have changed, and that's why I really I love wrestling. Wrestling was my first love. It was my very first love. And my wife said, you've changed a lot. And I said, what do you mean? She said, you used to say, I love you, but wrestling comes first always. And now I'm hurt that I ever even said that. That ever even crossed my mind, because I love wrestling and it's always a part of me. But I used to be Johnny Romano, the wrestler. Now I'm Johnny Romano, who is also a wrestler, if that makes sense.
Right.
I
Well,
combine them best I can.
too, you sat there and you said you like to think that you were talented enough. You still got that spark, bro. Like, legit. The match that we're gonna go over on the video version of this for YouTube, it's legitimately. I will say that is one of the best matches I have ever seen you in.
I appreciate that, man. And mentally, man, my head wasn't. I go when if anybody hears this and you're going through mental health issues, just know you're not alone in it, because there's times you could be doubting yourself and thinking like I've read stories about Robin Williams and Jim Carrey, you know, two of the most talented comedic actors of all time, would do something and then absolutely hate it, and go like, I like, Jim Carrey hates the movie Ace Ventura. Um, he doesn't like it, and he doesn't like his performance in it. Um, Chris Jericho hates his performance when he debuted on Monday Night Raw. He knows that it was iconic, but he hates how cartoonish he was in his expressions. So we're always our biggest critic, but every so often you go through a period of I see something and it just sticks with me. And if you have those mental health issues where I remember seeing a thing where it said, it's somebody, a little trolling page, but it just said, like, if you're over 40, stop wrestling. You have no reason to be in the ring. You're not going to get a contract. Nobody's watching you. I'm like, okay, but maybe I'm not after a contract. Maybe I love wrestling. Maybe I love being an artist. And that's what I got, where you talk about that match in Albany. I got to a period where I wasn't feeling creative. I had a couple matches where I just didn't I feel like I was going through the motions. And you talking about wrestling a guy I never met before in my life from a totally different area. And we just clicked and vibed well. And, me and him, I mean, had a heart to heart to where he was really like, man, you got it, man. Don't let nobody. And he's older than I am, and he's still out there killing it and having all these opportunities. Sometimes you gotta take a chance on yourself. And I have those matches. I needed that match that night. I can't tell you. Me and Logan talked about it. Logan was telling me like he got good reviews about it and everything. And it wasn't like anything was crazy in that match. It was just everything was told right. And my wife is a great artist, man. She can paint anything in this world. And I always say my art is pro wrestling. And she'll paint something and she go, I hate it. But I'm like, I like it. But then I'll have a match and people go, hey, I like that match, man. I go, I did. It was terrible. Because in my head, it wasn't. But with that match right there, I really can't. I don't have any. I feel like it was everything it needed to be at that moment. It was everything. So every so often you need those types of matches to keep you going, and that's where I'm at. Where you say I got that spark. That spark burns out sometimes. So every now and then I
Well,
need those ones like that.
what me saying, that's one of the best matches I've seen you. And it's not to say that the rest of your matches were crap or anything. It's just like that match is gonna forever stand out to me when I think about Johnny Romano now,
I
because
appreciate that.
like you said, YouTube clicked and you can just see that electricity going through both of you. And like when we review it, just watch yourself whenever you start getting into it and you go for that super kick, bro. That right there, it touched my soul. I was like, he's in it. He's in that moment,
That means a
man.
lot, man, because that's the magic of pro wrestling. That's that part of pro wrestling when somebody asks you, "Is this real?" and you're like, "This is real." What you're asking is different. What you're
Right.
asking is about the outcome. In that moment, it's real. It's and I had that sounds cliche. It's real to me. It's still real to me. But I've had those matches where I'm going out there and I don't want like I'm just going through the motions and I'm like, and you really, when you get to that point, go back to that advice question. If any guys are out here and you're feeling burned out, take a month, man. Take a month off. Take 2 months if you need to. Only take one book and just do your home base if you need to. Whatever it is to clear your head, because one, you're going to get hurt. Two, you're going to hurt somebody else. And three, you're just going to make yourself worse because you're not going to put out quality work that you're proud of, you know? And
Well,
I got
I
there.
mean, too. It's like that saying that they say, "How can we miss you if you never go away?" I mean, sometimes
Right.
that's all
That's
it
what happened
takes.
at this
Just fall back to the shadows.
C- well, CWF, and that was a problem I had early on. CWF, I did the deal where I was off a month and they were going to have me back, but I said, no, just instead of me coming in for a run in, just let me be off for the whole month. Because at least one, I don't feel right coming in just for a run in on y'all. I wouldn't feel it's not around the corner. It's a good drive. Uh, it's Milton, Florida, which is basically Pensacola. But I said, give me a month off. Let them let them miss me, even though it's only a month. And I think that was a problem I had because I just wanted to wrestle so much. A few years back, I was staying booked, but to be honest with you, South Georgia kind of got saturated, and Johnny Romano was pretty much on every show within a 2 hour radius.
Right.
I mean, then nobody has. I'm not. I'm. You might say, well, he's in demand. But if I'm in demand and everything is a 2 hour radius, am I really in demand? If I'm wrestling in Valdosta, Tifton, Adel, Pavo, and
And
Thomasville,
all those are in the same general location. Like, yes, a different city, but I mean, all they got to do is drive 20 miles the other way, and they'll see you.
yeah, because if you live in Moultrie, you're gonna go to Albany to do things. You're gonna go to Valdosta to do things. Thomasville, it's the same kind of concept. So that I keep going back to the advice because things click on my head. Don't oversaturate yourself. Make yourself special. You don't have to be on every show. That's
Right.
a young man's mentality to think you have to be. I got to be wrestling every single weekend. No, you don't. No, you don't. I mean, take like Effie. Effie, I think I just seen where he said he had wrestled 60 dates so far. That sounds like a whole lot. It's not that much on his level. That's not a. I mean, we're not at 52 weeks yet, so that's basically every single weekend. But I learned a while back, and it took me so long. Quality over quantity.
Hmm.
Right now my
I'm,
biggest ones are helping build up Exclusive Pro and CWF. I work with GCW some when they need me, and if they feel like I'm, every time they've asked me, and I'm good buddies with most of the guys there. They're like, "Hey, can you make it?" I'm always like, "Am I going to provide an asset to your show?" I'm at a point where unless I'm requesting something to be somewhere new, unless I can provide you something, I don't want to just be a body.
right.
You know what I mean?
When you show up,
So
you want it to mean something.
yeah. Definitely, man.
I totally get that because I mean that's one of the things that most workers don't see. Like you said, you don't have to wrestle every weekend. Just go to another show and just watch it. Watch as a fan, mark, whatever you want to call it, and soak in some of the game. Like you might see something that from sitting out there in that crowd, you might see something that's working for somebody else that you might can incorporate into your stuff. I mean, because everybody steals from everybody.
Well, not even
Uh,
that though, man. To have some weekends where you detox from the business so you don't
yeah,
become bitter or like, one weekend just you and your significant other go to a movie or go bowling or whatever and don't talk wrestling. People feel like you got to talk about it 24/7 and you don't. Like my separation from it made it why I'm still wrestling. Like I don't know
right.
if I'd still been doing it if it wasn't for the pandemic, or if I was doing it, how much I would have just like got more bitter and more angry. And Logan, I tell you that it that 2020 saved me in so many ways that I'm so thankful for that period of time to not have the option. It was like we're going to take this from you, and if you have that in your mentality, like this could be taken away at any moment, would you be okay if it was gone? You got to get to that point. Like you got to tell yourself you're so. If you're searching for something and we see these guys booking canceled, really like to fill it up. Like, it canceled, man. Take that as a sign to like just detox your body, both mind,
Right.
body, and soul. Stop trying to like, I got to get on a show. I got to. No, you don't. You know.
Well,
So
I mean, too, if you look at it like realistically, a fifth, just say a 15-minute match. That's about the equivalent of going through a really bad car
it is, man. Sunday mornings,
wreck.
man. Ah, yeah, I mean, and I remember some Sunday, and that was you go back to that wrestling dad hashtag. When we'd have wild adventure tickets, I never. My promise of becoming a father was I would never let wrestling cloud like overcloud anything with my family. So it'd be a Saturday that I wrestled, and it might be a street fight match or a ladder match or something where I was really banged up. Well, that next morning I had to get up to go to Wild Adventures, and
Ride
I
roller
needed to
coasters
ride
with
all
your
these
kids.
rides and I had to, man. I'm never gonna allow this to be like,
Take away
oh,
from
I
that.
don't feel
Right.
like it. That's not fair to them. They didn't ask to be born into a wrestling family. They enjoy it, but it doesn't mean they want to neglect anything that they want to be part of.
Because at the
You
same
know,
time, they're still kids and they want to do kid
exactly,
things.
exactly.
Now, I understand you have a love for most things 90s Nickelodeon.
I do, man. I do this. Me and my wife got a YouTube channel. We haven't really posted much, and the videos are kind of we're raw. We haven't really edited most of them. We just post them, but we do these unboxings, and I do these. They're called the Nick Box. Do them 4 times a year. They're like $50. I don't get paid for this, so but it's a fun little thing to do. What's so funny is I see like Gen Z kids doing unboxings of them, and they don't know what any of the stuff is, and I know every reference on it. But yeah, man, I'm a big uh, '90s fan overall. I can just my wife's like, how do you remember all this? And I'm like, I don't know, but Nickelodeon '90s, man, that like I can remember. You can't do that on television. And Roundhouse, all these like early shows that people don't even like. What is that? But yeah, it's a big part that I love to share with my kid. Like my kid is probably the only kid that's 10 years old. If you asked him, hey Pax, who loves orange soda? He would know exactly who loves orange
Kale
soda.
loves orange soda.
Oh, it's true. But yeah, he's big in it too. But yeah, '90s is. I don't know, man. I just feel like I said this on a post earlier today where somebody was like asking me about my cat's name, and I said, "Oh, it's a Garfield reference." They were like, "Well, that's more of an '80s reference." I was like, "No, you don't get it. The '90s. Why the '90s was so good is it appreciated old decades because we grew up on watching Nick at Night too." And my
Right.
example was, if you don't believe me, Gilligan's Island has a Nintendo game. Why would a video game have? Why would a show from the what 60s have a video game in the late 80s? Because it was still popular amongst our generation. You know what I mean?
Right.
This newer generation, if it happened last week, it's over with. It's done. Like they don't. I don't remember none of that. So, but yeah,
Yeah. Like
90s.
fads and trends lasted a whole lot longer during the 90s.
Oh yeah. I mean,
Like the
anytime you want to play a game of
parachute
Pog, man, I got you.
pants, parachute pants, all that good stuff.
Zumbas.
Remember the big wheels?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, dude, I was telling my wife uh new thing I want, and she found it for me like that on my car. I had this Ninja Turtle football that was shaped like the Ninja Turtle. It was just like he was in the ball. And I remember my brother got that for me. I was like, man, I'd really like to have that again. And she found it like that. But a lot of people say like, why don't you grow up or whatever? Most of my stuff, if anything was to ever happen to me, I mean, it's my stuff is probably valued. I probably got $200,000 of value in this house of things, you know. But the fact is like I like holding on to stuff. I like remembering. I like what it brings me back to. You
Right.
could have a lot worse vices in this world, man, than collecting toys. You know.
Right. So going on with the Nickelodeon stuff, what would you say your favorite Nickelodeon show was?
Cartoon would be Rocco's Modern Life. I just identify with Rocco. I don't know why, man. It's that hard look guy. My favorite episode is when he goes to the grocery store and everything's like 99% off, and he only has
Right.
like $2, and he misses the sale, and then he just snaps. That's me. I'm that fun-loving guy until I'm pushed to a point. Kind of like how I see my character, that pop star that's nice and easy-go-lucky until he snaps. So I can go Britney 99 or I can go Britney 06. You know, but
Brittany
I ain't gonna
after
shave
K
my head.
Fed.
Yeah, yeah, I ain't gonna shave my head though. But yeah, I say Rocco's Modern Life, and I've gone back and watched it, and I realized like how many like weird jokes, sexual jokes that I didn't get. But live action, it would have to be Hey Dude. It's it. I mean, a lot of people just don't remember that one. But it was like Saved by the Bell, but it was on a ranch. If you hear the theme song, it'll just get stuck in your head. But I mean, I just those are my. I've collected them on DVD. I had bootleg DVDs of it before they actually got released. Now it's on Paramount Plus. But yeah, I'd say Hey Dude live action. I'd say Rocco's Modern Life cartoon, and I'll even go one more on you. I'd say game show either Double Dare or Guts, because I always wanted to do the whole obstacle course on Double Dare, but I always wanted to win the big giant crag from on Guts. So that would be my
Uh,
top three right there.
it would be Guts or Legends of the Hidden Temple for me.
Bro, listen, Legends of the Hidden Temple seemed impossible to win. Like, go back. I mean, I watched the movie. My kid loves the movie. But going back and watching some of the episodes, which is on Paramount Plus, see how many episodes you have to watch before the team wins. And did you know they had a psychiatrist on hand because the kids were traumatized from the temple guards attacking them? It would scare them to the point that they had to have a psychiatrist on hand to talk to them afterwards. So, yeah, that one's
I,
I like that one, but hard to
I
win.
think it was more. I think it was more the fact that they took you on that journey of the old mythology and stuff like that
That's
that I like
true.
so much about it.
You did like I love shows from go back into the 90s. I love shows. My wife always asks me, "How do you know this many things?" It's not like I learned them in school. Like Legends of the Hidden Temple, when they did that first part, you learned about history. Animaniacs, bro, go back and watch Animaniacs. They were singing, teaching you the state capitals. You would learn things from these cartoon shows, and they would just have the funny jokes in between them, and you would learn it more than you would from a teacher. Because it would sink in with you. But yeah, that's a good one on that too, because you take away little tidbits from all that. So
tidbits, right? And I'd have to say probably cartoon for me. Probably All Real Monsters.
that's a good one. That's a good one. That's in that box a lot too. They do a lot of aura. I got a little aura monster. I got a crumb. My wife's got a crumb shirt where the eyes are hooked to the shirt, and then if you lift up your arms, it has the hairy armpits. I have the Rocco button-up shirt. But yeah, that's a really, they were supposed to make a movie. The movie was made, but it was deemed too dark for Nickelodeon, so it got canned. Like, it's filmed and made to this day. Nobody knows where the footage is, but yeah.
Well, I mean,
I
they
had
had that. It had that like glum feel to it, even as a cartoon.
Yeah, yeah,
But
and
but
we have
like
an Oblina umbrella, so that's a cool one too. But yeah, it was a dark show, but it was still funny. I like the one where they had the Barney character. Do you remember that episode?
God, you know how long it's been since I've watched All Real Monsters. Like just anything other than what you can find on YouTube now.
Bro, they did a parody of Barney. That's like one of their first episodes. It's real funny if you go back and find it. But yeah, man, dude, it's when I say my favorites, I love all of it though. Like I love finding old sitcoms from the '90s. I hadn't watched every episode, and I'll go back and watch, or episodes I haven't seen since we started this new one that was only on for like one season, and we started watching it. And I'm telling my wife what's going to happen, and she's like, "How do you remember that from 30 years ago?" And I'm like, "I don't know. It's just there. I don't
Right.
sticks with me. Just like wrestling, man. You was talking about that. Like, this was my escape. Not growing up in a great household and all that. That was like watching sitcoms and wrestling and cartoons was like, okay, I can live vicariously through this and be able for a little while to ignore what's going on in my real life. So
Right. So in conclusion, for the audio segment of this podcast, anything else that you want to put out there for the fans? I know you wanted to touch on the mental health awareness and all that, so now would be a good
well,
time for.
okay, man. Well, outside of wrestling, I'm a mental health caseworker. Been doing it for a few years. Just started this part of the process where I help people with mental health issues get housing and stay housed to make sure they're doing well. But I've learned so much from it that it helped me understand my own mental health. I'm not diagnosed with it, but I know I have social anxiety and I have,
And that's crazy to
depression.
think about that though, like social anxiety, but you perform in front of a bunch of crowds. That's wild, ain't it?
I get that all the time, but the big difference is um, Popstar Johnny Romano is different than hashtag wrestling dad. I'm
Right.
become somebody else. I get to have this. And if you ever see me, if you ever get a chance and you see me in a lot, especially locker rooms where it ain't our clique, and you know our clique from around this way. If I'm in a
Right.
new area like CWF, almost the entire roster was at least 15 years younger than me,
Ooh.
and so I'm just sitting in a corner. I basically was texting my wife, but I still loved wrestling. I don't know how to. Either I talk way too long as we sit here past an hour, or either I don't know how to engage in conversation. I don't. I'm weird. I'm awkward. But yeah, man, I'm really passionate about mental health, especially for us as guys, and in pro wrestling. Because to be honest with you, if you're in pro wrestling, you got some kind of mental health issues. I don't care what you say, because no normal person would do this. No
That
normal
is
person would. What's that?
that's what Dr. Tom said. He said, "I just want you to know you're all crazy as fuck for wanting to do."
Yeah, yeah. I remember him saying that when I did the seminar with him, and it's one of those things where none of them. If you're plain normal guy, you probably ain't gonna do anything that's wrestling. Talking to Logan, me and Logan have just opened up to each other about our past, and I'm not gonna, get on to for what his side was, but we had similar paths on things, and wrestling was that escape, and it was like I want to be part of this. But with the mental health, I just like to tell people like, don't be afraid to go get help. Don't be afraid to go talk to somebody. You're not crazy. It's okay to understand that you can't do it on your own. It's okay to take medicine. It's okay to switch up medicines and figure out what's right for you. Medicine may not be right for you. Um, and no matter what the thought is, if you ever have thoughts of wanting to hurt yourself, there's always somebody to reach out to, because at the end of the day, whether you believe in God or you don't believe in God or you believe in another power or whatever the case may be, that's all fine and good. But I do firmly believe that every being on this earth was put here for some reason. Like, you may not know your purpose yet, and you may be 60 years old. Some people might have found it earlier than you. Right. So that's my biggest takeaway is like, hey, just, keep moving forward. If you want, if I don't remember what my name is, but you can just look up Johnny Romano on TikTok. I'm gonna start like doing a balance between funny ones and my little takes of things I've learned through the years in mental health to share with people. And here's what I tell people: I will never tell you to do anything I haven't either applied for myself or seen actively work for other people. So, that's my takeaway is don't be afraid, especially men, man. Don't be afraid to go talk to somebody. But I was also going to tell you, like, y'all be on the lookout. I got a movie coming out that I just a walk-on role, but it'll be my first movie, and it should be out before the end of the year. It's a movie with, I should know the name of it off the top of my head, but now I don't. It'll be with Alec Baldwin in it. This is before he shot the guy. But be on the lookout for that. That you was talking about, like things I'd like to do. That was one of my bucket lists. It wasn't a speaking role, but just to be in a movie with an A-list actor was pretty cool, and that'll be out before I think Thanksgiving. I filmed that like a year and a half ago. But yeah, that's my takeaway. Keep up with me on I'm not a Twitter guy. I've been told to advance in this business, I need a Twitter. I just ain't. Facebook is good enough for me. I'm having fun with the TikTok. I don't plan on doing an Instagram.
As
Plan on trying to
Facebook
get
and
some.
TikTok is about out of the '90s as Johnny Romano is going to get, huh?
Bro, man, if I'm about to go back to Yahoo Chat or something, and play some pool on Yahoo Chat, because I don't know, it's getting too much for old '90s Romano with my dial-up internet.
And that's
But yeah,
one thing too that you honestly you embody the pop star and the king of the '90s, like legit. Like anybody that doesn't know you won't understand it probably, but anybody that does know you and it's like that's the perfect freaking fit.
do you
You
know
know what I'm
why?
saying?
Do you know why it works? Do you know why it works, man? Is because
Because it's real.
it's real. It's me, bro. Like, I'm in the car listening to Britney Spears and NSYNC, and I'm at the house watching, Full House, and Family Matters, and my house is full of toys throughout. Man, I mean, I'm in my living room right now. No, not my bedroom right now, and my wife allows me to have all these figures up on the in front of the TV. This is who I am, man. Like, I, you know, they have the what's the Toys R Us song? I don't want to grow up. I want to be a Toys R Us kid. I don't want to grow up. You grow up. You grow up, because that seems very boring. I still take care of my family. I still get up and work my regular job. My bills are paid. I take care of my body. I take care of my family. I choose to have a childlike outlook. I
So call
have.
back to the '90s if you want to do that. That's your prerogative.
That's right, my prerogative. Whether it's Bobby Brown or Britney's remix. I would probably go with Bobby Brown original, but yeah, man, it's my perspective of things. It makes me happy. It makes me feel good about life. And you know, in a lot of ways, life can be so shitty, and happiness can be so fleeting in a way. So if you know these kind of things, and I'm not neglecting on my life, my responsibilities, who am I hurting? You know, a lot of people make fun of me about it, but you know, I tell you, I've talked to you know guys like Matt Cardona. You know, it used to be years ago you had to hide being a nerd with this kind of stuff. You know, you would never talk about collecting wrestling figures in a locker room 10 years ago. And
Right.
now that those dudes make a living at it. So
Well, I
it's a
mean, it's
lot.
like the last time that we were in Osceola with Exclusive Pro, and me and you were backstage, and we were talking about the Hasbro's and all that.
Yeah. Yeah, bro. I think we did that one show in Bainbridge, and I shot up the road to the Walmart and picked up Michael Hayes because somebody said it was there. So, you know, there's a lot worse things I could be doing, and at the end of the day, they're investments. I mean, I'm not, you know, the stuff has resale value. My 1, 2, 3 kid has done doubled in value in the last year. You know, it's worth like $1,000 loose. So it's just a fun thing, and it makes me hold on to a period of time. And lots of ways, I think it helps you to fight back things. Like they tell you, the best way to fight off dementia is music and like having things from your past. If that's the case, man, I ain't gonna ever have dementia because I hold
That's a
on.
fact.
I'm listening to the same music every single day. I'm, you know, hold on to. I can sit here to this day and tell you the main event to every WrestleMania up to 20 or 25. After that, it gets blurry because not watching the product. But I have that kind of photographic memory about anything from the 90s. So, you know, but yeah, I live and breathe it, man. It's not a gimmick. It's who I am, and that was what got me over because early on, you know, you talked about from the part one of this, I was the Italian heartthrob. I'm not Italian, as far as I know. I've never done one of those tests or whatever, but I probably have
23
something,
and
but I don't
me.
know. And it was just silly, man. It was me trying to pretend something. It was me trying to be like this weird version of Shawn Michaels that I'm not, you know? And I can't, Jackie Chan said, I can't be the next Bruce Lee, but I can be the first Jackie Chan. I can't
Right.
be the next anybody else, Shawn Michaels, Seth Rollins, but I can be the first Johnny Romano. I can be the best Johnny Romano, and that's all I stayed out to be. And if I and a lot of times I get people that tell me like, you know, how about I seen a guy put on Facebook that Johnny Romano is the best heel inside of the ring and the greatest baby face outside of the ring. And I was like, man, if that ain't the greatest compliment I've ever heard, you're saying I can do my job excellent in the ring, but at the end of the day, you know I'm a good guy. So that to me is
Right.
like that speaks, you know, volume. So that's probably what I
Well,
would end on. Go ahead.
before we go, I got one question. Where does the Romano come in?
Where's the Romano come in? Well, you know what I said earlier, man. I was trying to find this right name, and I go back to the '90s, and I was like, man, I could have came up with all these cool names. I was watching Doug, and you know, if you ever watched
Oh, I
Doug,
love that show.
he'd have all these alter egos like, you know, Quail Man, but he had like a James Bond character and he called it Smash Adams. I was like, oh man, that would have been a great wrestling name, Smash Adams. But I never could come up with anything. And I went from the Tony Maselli character, and I told you that somebody just came up with Johnny Romano, and they wanted me to be the Bone Thug Johnny Romano, and I was like, no, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. No, I'm not doing that. Even for a little while, here's one you didn't know. I was the best around Johnny Romano, and I came out to the Karate Kid theme. But I stopped that because I tried to say, wait a minute, I know I'm not the best around. I know I'm not on that Daniel, you know, Bryan level. So I got to change it up. It was being funny, but that's why I like with the pop star is I'm not telling you I can sing. I'm telling you I'm a pop star. It's like, well, people go, well, can he sing? I'm like, well, could Jeff Jarrett sing? So it's me saying pop life, hashtag pop life, and is everything that I view on it. But Romano, just somebody came up with that name, and to be honest with you, man, I live by that name. I have it. I mean, we're not going to talk about the shoot name. If you know it, you know it. If you don't,
Right.
whatever, you don't need to. But I live to
If
me
you don't, you're gonna be involved in the kayfabe.
exactly because the way I let my wife has Romano on there. You know what I mean? It's because I want to protect one bit. Well, first of all, with what I do, if anybody finds out I'm a wrestler, they can't look up the shoot name because that doesn't exist on social media in any fashion. But
Right.
I just feel like it's something that I've become synonymous with, and I believe in it. It's like Undertaker is. I'm not saying I'm the Undertaker. I'm not saying he is just now trying to learn to be Mark Calloway. You know, and I
Right.
know who the real me is, but I have people at work call me Romano because that's just something I vibe with. It's something it's one and the same. If you know my shoot and you call me by my shoot, I'd be hard pressed to even turn my head. Because I just that's you talking about with the social anxiety is because I become the pop star Johnny Romano. So
Right.
that's just where it came from, man. And it went when where it kind of worked out. Hashtag Romano Ramblings, hashtag Romano or Riot. It kind of flows well with what I got. Nobody ever spells my damn name right, even though there's a famous comedian, Ray Romano, who spells it the exact same way. They always put an A in front of the R, and that's not how you spell it. It's not Romano. Uh, but yeah, it's to the point that I identify with that name more than I do my shoot name now. You know,
Right.
like
Right.
it's weird. So
I figured there was like some story where like you seen Corky Romano or something like that, like because that's when I hear that name, that's immediately where my head went because
got any
I was a movie buff,
cookies?
right? I
That's
was a
all I
movie
remember.
buff during that time, so
That's all I remember from that movie is you got any cookies? I was so mad. Chris Kattan was in Tallahassee not too long ago, and I wanted to go see him, but didn't get a chance to. But no, that's just where it came from. And I look back, and there's so many other names I probably would have tried or come up with, but and that's where when I did the pop star, I told you I was trying to find a new way to say my name or a new hashtag, and pop star is very generic in a way, but I've worked on it for so long that if you Google pop star wrestling, I'm gonna come up.
right,
Or at least within that first section and my pictures and everything. That means okay, he's connected with it.
right.
Because you do anything else, if you call yourself, you know, I don't know, whatever, the real deal,
Rockabilly,
or no, like the real deal. How many real deals have you seen through the years?
too many.
You know, and it's God rest his soul on Jake Slater, but it's just kind of a common thing. So I wanted to have something that was both identifiable but not overused. So, but Romano just I got given it, and I said, yeah, why not? I mean, I literally changed my name. I was like, I don't want this name. Somebody's like, what about this name? And I mean, it's the same way Stone Cold had Steve Austin. He's like, I don't want to. His name's Steve Williams. They're like, well, Doctor Death is here. You can't be Steve Williams. He's like, well, we're gonna call you Steve Austin. He's like, yeah, but that's the dude on $6 Million Man. He's like, come up with something else, and he couldn't. I couldn't either. And 30 years later for Stone Cold, 20 years later for me, I'm still, you know, uh, Johnny Romano, and I mean, Steve Austin even legally changed his name to Steve Austin. So, it was just something that somebody said one day. I ran with it and feel like I did a pretty good job with it the last few years.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'd like to thank you for coming on. This is going to conclude the audio segment of this week's podcast for Mark's Indy Spotlight. If you, I'm just going to say this: if you are anywhere around the Georgia, Florida, Alabama area, anywhere, if you have not seen a Johnny Romano match, you are missing out.
That means a lot to me, brother. I thank you. And anybody who listens to this, thank you for taking out your time. I know it's long, but I think if you listen to this, you'll have fun. You'll gain something from it. And I appreciate everybody out there.
With that being said, check out the shows on the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network. If you smell what the artist cooking, the We Can't Wrestle podcast, A Slice of Time, The Year That Was, dot, dot, dot. I mean, there's just so much different material out there that's been put out by the WrestleNet Radio Podcast Network that you'll never be bored. But that will conclude this week's of Marcus Indy Spotlight. Johnny, again, I thank you. Wonderful episode. And to all the people out there listening, we bid you adieu. All right,
Bye, guys.
121:15. If you need to take a break right this second,
I'll do
All right. So this is the bonus content for YouTube, and it'll be shared to Facebook and all that. So we'll get that out there. But I really wanted to go over this match with you because this is where I saw that spark come back to life, and like I was just proud to be there and get to witness that moment.
it. All right.
So, without any further ado, here is what was this, March 12th of this year?
I believe so. Yeah.
This is
This was after the not so successful Christmas show.
yeah, that had a lot to do with the police dispersing people, not letting them stand out there in the line to get in the show.
Yeah. Well, I will say this. I mean, whenever you tell me like when we're getting started, I'll say on this building, I absolutely love this building. Yeah, I have such a fondness of it. I call it the house that Romano built, and some people will get like offended by that. It's not that I discredit any worker who's ever went through there. There's a lot of guys that helped build that up, from Dab Savage to Bam Stone to Jared Michaels, Logan, a lot of others, and I'm probably just slipping. Velvet Jones, a lot of other guys. I'm saying I hold true to this building because it was me and Dab who originally brung wrestling in this building, but I've wrestled in this building more than anybody else. I've had more matches than any other wrestler has, and it just has a very special place in my heart. And it very much has just the ECW feel to it, just the dim litness to it, and it always hold a special place because I always feel Jerry when I'm there. So it just having that match in that building just made it that much more special.
Yeah, Jerry had told me about Bam Stone, and that was prior to me getting involved with everything, and like he was like out of the two biggest draws in Albany, Georgia, it was Johnny Romano and it was Bam Stone.
Yeah, I think me, Bam, and Dab, we had like a NWO. I was kind of the Pop X Pac, and they were like Nash and Hall. They were from Albany, so my build came from a natural standpoint because I wasn't from Albany. I had family there, but theirs literally, they were from there, so people knew. So anything I did was actually coming from building the character. But
Right.
yeah, man, I just love that building. I know it's harder and harder to run as of late, but every time I think it's going to be the last time. But that's why I hold that true. Every time I go back, I was like, this might be the last time I get to wrestle in this building, so I'm gonna try to make the most of it because that's how special it is to me.
Well, hopefully that doesn't happen in either one of our lifetimes.
Let's hope not, man.
But so I'm gonna start this from your opponent's introduction and just let everybody get the whole aura of the pop star.
All right. I've always liked how we had that set up there. I always just thought, you know,
Yeah.
I always, what I always wanted to do in this building. I always wanted to have like a WrestleMania 12 entrance from that balcony, but I never could figure out how to.
How to rig it.
Yeah, it just always felt like this ain't gonna end well, but it always looked like it'd be a cool visual. You know, it's a tight locker room back there. It's always like
Right.
hard to navigate. There's very little room around that area.
Also, the thing that I think is cool is just the how much memories is in that building, not just with wrestling. Like that building was made in what, like 1943 or something?
I don't know. I know it just has like a very historic feel for it. I mean, I know in the last few years, the owner of the building has had like a comedian there that I forgot who the comedian was. He was kind of a more of a famous comedian in the '90s. He was an Asian comedian who had kind of like a country accent. That was kind of his shtick. But that was the owner's favorite comedian, so that's why he bring him in there. But they've had him there. I think they've had. I want to say they've had not Luke Bryan there, but what's the other country singer? Anyway, that besides that, I'm coming to ring, so let's forget about that. But as you see, I'm doing my shtick. It's weird, man. Like I couldn't do that when I first started. I would have never saw myself doing that like that. I didn't have that confidence, but I learned to, do that. I've had people tell me like, man, you really helped me, like seeing you. I've had all races, colors, straight, gay, trans, everybody come up to me and tell me like, man, you make me feel like it's okay to just be me, and I'm like, because it is, man. Like, um, it's said like with my character, some might consider it kind of homoerotic, but it's really not. It's just me having fun. When
Right.
you really get to know who I am, really like so. But yeah, right here I'm always just like hamming it up. Logan hates when they check me and I do the shaking my hips. He's like, please don't do that when we tag anymore. And I'm like, this is this is very standard, man. This is one of those deals where the yay boo thing, to see like. And I tell you one thing I like to do. I always like to let the referee get a pop after the heel, just because I think it's funny. And you see, he hams up the dancing with me, and then I'm like, sometimes the refs don't get what I mean, but he knew exactly what I was trying to do because I knew they were going to cheer the ref just to get the heel man. That's just
Right.
easy, and right there, that's like 30 seconds, and to me, that's the match. We've begun the match already, and that's what a lot of people don't think about. They think about like, oh, it's when you lock up. No, it ain't when you lock up. All that other stuff. And this dude was so good. Like, I'm not quite sure. We just did a lockup, and I guess he just threw me down. But he's milking that. We're not like I see so many guys go into a lockup, and they're like, boom, headlock, shoulder tackle. Like right here, I'm gonna milk that. I'm gonna be like, man, wow, okay, this dude's pretty powerful, man. What am I gonna do, guys? And I always look at the fans to be like, I want them to kind of feel what I feel. Like, oh man, did you see this dude?
Well,
So
I mean, at the same time, you want to gauge that reaction from them.
exactly, give them time to take it in. You know, boom. So there, he hit me with a shoulder tackle
Oh,
and
and
hit me
fun
with another.
fact, this is the first time this footage has been seen
Yeah, I haven't seen it at all.
on any platform.
And I love doing that spot right there because we're trained with that drop toe hold, and this is like my little go-to. I don't know how I started doing that, but I was trying to think of something I could do safely. But that little baseball clothesline, some people call it elevator clothesline. But right here was another one. This was kind of his idea, like where I'm beating on him, and then I realized, oh shit, I'm gonna have to do a lot more than that. And I love these kind of David and Goliath things, and the crowd's getting into you with it. And I'm like, well, come on, we got him, we got him. It's just
Bro,
such an easy
how
story.
hot was that crowd that night? Oh my
They
god!
they were.
From
I was
start to
surprised, man. I was really surprised because there's nothing that'll kill you more when wrestling is your drug. Hang on, waiting for you. When wrestling is your drug and you're wanting that high and you don't get it from them, and that's one thing I've always got is I've always been told my bumps. I can. I don't do them as much, but I used to be able to do like the Rakishi Billy Gunn 360 bump. I can still pull it out, but when I bump for you, like I just, I've learned to try to bump for like different people, but it don't matter if it's a guy this size or a cruiserweight. I try to bump my ass off for you, but I've tried like as I've got older gauge the bumps. But right here, he's when he's choking me, I love the spot where he takes his tooth out, and he just starts scraping my own forehead. He takes his own false tooth out. That's just and I sell it. I'm like right there, he's doing it, and he's taking his own tooth out. And that gets that crowd like, oh my God, what is this? This dude's a madman, But
Right. Like the
and
whole aura of this whole entire match, and like the way that you two clicked, it's just when people say wrestling is dead, I will show them this match. You like
I appreciate that,
listen to
bro.
the crowd, listen to the crowd, and how they react to everything y'all do. It's amazing, bro.
He's got that one. And there's like one. If I was like a real big critic of it, and I am, I'm always a critic of my stuff. But there was like one spot where we had some space, and with the other one was waiting on something. But that's another thing that guys don't really realize is that we called stuff, but we were still trying to just vibe off the crowd. And what we knew where there was like a space, we filled it because we didn't like worry about it.
Right.
So therefore, the crowd never caught onto it at all. It was like I think it was right there. It was waiting for a run-in deal, and then I do this spot where I call it Memphis Heat, and it's where you just run into a couple of things, and then what did I hit him with? Yeah, I hit him with this all the momentum coming around with that clothesline, but where you hit me with two things, and you either cut me off or I come back with a big, whatever it might be. Depending on your size, and that's I switch up things. I try to make okay. I would do this with a smaller guy, but you're a bigger guy, so let's try to find another avenue. And the fire, man, and that's I will, have a sore throat on a really good match. Look at that, and that's the perfect example of like a good superhero movie. That's that part of the
Right.
superhero movie where the superhero is coming up. He's coming up. You think it's about to happen. Oh, he gets cut back down. And it keeps you. You know exactly when to do it. Like we were sitting there going, like, it's about that time. Yeah, give me a little bit. But such a great guy to work with, man. I'd love to work with him again. We were supposed to, a couple weeks ago with me and Logan, but things. And look, I mean, he's a great seller too, man. There's a balance of selling and being theatrical. Yeah, boom, there's the kick. It actually landed better than I thought. But yeah, it was just no dead air really either. And then I think this was it. This is where I was like in the corner, but it didn't. Now that I look at it, it still seemed really smooth. But yeah,
Oh yeah.
it stayed going from every moment. You know what I mean? There was no dead air, and nothing seemed robotic. Everything seemed like okay, he missed this. Okay, he took advantage of this. And that's another thing is it's probably one of my best matches that I went over on because a lot of times some of my best matches is when I go under because I don't know what it is about it, but I sell so much better and everybody loves an underdog. But yeah, man, it was so far. I just it still seems as and I love that spot. I love when a spot where they grab me and they just say like some. I always tell them yell out something derogatory to me or find my kid or whatever, and then in that last moment I pop out of it. Really good stuff though so far.
Yeah, that
Oh, I
crowd
already
reaction.
yeah. Yeah, and if you can't see from this angle, but I just roll out of the ring and I just fall right by the fans, like I'm using their knees to pick me up. And that's little things like crowds will like and then I go. I think I did something. I don't know if it was on this one or not, where I just go sit in a fan's chair or in their lap or whatever. And those are things that people take away from them. They want to feel part of the show, man. it's I had no expectations going into this, but I did ask Logan. I asked specifically. I said, "Man, dude, with all these new guys you're bringing in, and I know with you helping a lot of scouting new talent, I specifically asked, give me a new guy, please. I want to be tested because I felt like if I wrestled one of our clique, I would have just walked through the motions. And that's no offense to any of our guys. I love all our guys like brothers, but I really wanted to be tested and be out of my element. And I think this really did that. And it will go down as like one of those redefining moments. In this second and this twilight of my career, I guess you would call it. It
Yeah,
really.
you remember this part?
I do not. What was this part? Was this where we did the birthday for your girl?
Yeah.
And she wouldn't get up? Oh, man. And I was gassed too, bro. I hadn't really been doing any cardio or nothing. I'm just a cardio guy anyway, but I was so gassed after
If
that.
that there does not tell you how over you are with that Albany crowd.
Because they're still in it, yeah. Man, I missed that building. I wish we could get one more in for the end of the year, but it's such a magical like place with what goes on there when the fans are actually into it. So it was a good time, man. And it was really one of those moments that really got me to say, all right, I still got something left in my tank.
And I believe that also we're going to be seeing Johnny Romano, the Popstar, for quite some time.
Oh yeah, I ain't going nowhere. It's like Chris Candino said, one of my favorite promos. He's laying down, and he's like, "Just when you think I'm done," and he pops back up, and he's like, "I ain't over. I ain't done by a long shot." And it's, I'm not going anywhere. Like, I mean, I might have some doors closed, but I got good friends. I got good pals that believe in me. I'm working for good promotions. I don't. Basically, between my rotation of exclusive pro here locally and CWF in Milton, Florida. And, of course, I got like a Fusion I go to sometimes. And I got GCW I go to sometimes. And CWFG as well, in Dublin and all those areas.
Right.
But overall, between those are ones that it's just spot shows that when they need me. Right now, I really want to just be part of stuff that wants me there. You know what I mean? Like that I really feel, and I feel that I'm being creative. I will walk away from a promotion if I don't feel like I'm being an artist with what I do. I'm not doing paint by numbers anymore. I want to actually let's do some Picassos, man. Let's do some Mona Lisas. Let's actually, do something. So I'm happy with where things are going. I'm happy with Exclusive Pro. I'm happy to see it grow. And yeah, if you thought the first 19 years was fun and it was good, wait till this next thing 19 years.
All right.
Yes, sir.